All right, good evening, everybody. This is great to have you here tonight. If you have not been with our Thought Leaders and Innovators series before here with the NEA, you're in for an awesome treat. So welcome to this special NEA production. Tonight, we're doing Owning It. It is going to be a really fun webinar. All of our webinars have been fun, and this is going to be a really fun one as well. We're delighted to have you. And before I introduce our speaker and tell you a little about tonight, I want to thank once again our hosts, which are the National Education Association. We have Christopher Thomas, who's making us all sound good, and will ultimately be putting this out on YouTube for later consumption. And we also have Brandy Pixler and thank you for her leadership here with the NEA. So for those of you, again, that are tuning in, my name is Dr. Casey Rees, and I tend to host these for the last couple of years. I'm an author with Solution Tree, and the last couple of years, I've invited other authors from Solution Tree and other areas and other innovators from outside of just publishing to present to us a thought leader series, Thought Leaders and Innovators in Education, for educators, for teachers, for those of us who go to work each day as educators. And we have had this ongoing series where we present these webinars, and we actually bring you the authors. We bring you the thought leaders. We bring you the teachers who are on the front lines, and we get you together with them, and we spend an hour together, and we give you a chance to not only listen in and learn, but to ask questions as you go. So the way that tonight will go, and here's a slide on tips for engagement about how to mute your microphone, how to turn on your camera, turn it off, how to raise your hand if you have a question. Take a look at that briefly while I quickly share this with you, that as we go along tonight, I'm going to ask our friend Alex and our thought leader, Alex, an author, to give us his presentation. And then I'll have a bit of a conversation with him leading into answering your questions, which is our favorite part. So we'll be ready to give you a chance to ask questions based on what you see. So that's what we do. I'm the host. We can once again, I've been writing for Solution Tree for a number of years, but really my great joy here is to work with the NEA. So Alex, go ahead and jump to the next one there. Tonight, again, it's my pleasure to introduce Alex Kajitani. Alex, how do I say the last name again? I thought I had it right. Say it for me.
We're close. Perfect. Kajitani.
Kajitani. I was practicing it. If you read my lips, I was practicing it before, and I thought I had it, and the pressure was on with the camera.
You did better than most telemarketers, so not to worry.
Compare me to a telemarketer. I may look like one tonight with my hair, right? So anyway, Alex, thank you for that save. But Alex, if you can see here, California Teacher of the Year, Top-4 Finalist for National Teacher of the Year. He's the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, Inspiration for Teachers. His first book, Owning It, was named recommended reading by the U.S. Department of Education. He's actually on a special, he has many mission points, but one of his special missions is to get every kid in America to learn his timetables, and he has a website he'd like you to see. And Alex, we can say this again at the end if I forget, but multiplicationnation.com is a great place to visit. He's a keynote speaker. He is famous for being the rapping mathematician. Is on TED Talks, CBS Evening News. He's been honored at the White House. And he's also, you can see his website there in the bottom left-hand corner. And Alex, we're so glad to have you here tonight. Thanks for giving up an hour of your time to share with the educators of the NEA. Did I leave anything out of that introduction? I'm sure you've done a lot more. What did I leave out that we should have said?
That was more than enough. That was fabulous. Thank you, Casey.
All right, man. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Owning It? What do we need to know tonight?
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am so absolutely honored to be here. I know you could have had any number of, famous people or CEOs come and do tonight's thought leadership webinar, but you went with a teacher. So for that, I am truly grateful. Then again, you went with a teacher. So don't say I didn't warn you, but thank you so much to everybody, all the educators who are joining us tonight and watching later. I've been a member, was a member of the NEA since the minute I stepped onto my first campus as a teacher. So thank you so very much, and so grateful to be a part, join you now with the Solution Tree family as well. And so I think that, most of my career I've been right here at Mission Middle School. Mission is located in Escondido, California, in Northeast San Diego. just an amazing school, an amazing neighborhood, not without its challenges. Here's a picture of some of our fantastic students. 85% of our students are Latino, 10% are white, 5% are Black. 90% of our students receive free and reduced price lunch. I actually think it might be a little bit higher than that, but you know, some of our parents are kind of intimidated to come onto campus and fill out the paperwork. So we either have to go find them out in the community or wait until they come on campus to get the kids signed up. And 2/3 of our parents haven't finished high school yet. So again, a lot of interesting challenges, but amazing rewards as well. Just like there are challenges and rewards, you know, really with teaching in any kind of school. As you heard earlier, I am known now around the world, actually, as the rapping mathematician, but I didn't always start out that way. In fact, several years ago, I was a brand new teacher, just really struggling to survive in my classroom. And I couldn't get my students to pay attention. I couldn't get them to sit still in their seats. And, you know, I certainly couldn't seem to get them to remember the math I had, you know, just taught them 5 minutes ago. But what I realized is a rap song would come out on Monday, and by Tuesday, they seemed to have every single word memorized. And so I thought, okay, I have got to play on this strength, right? And so one day I decided to write my own rap song about the math that I was teaching. We were studying adding and subtracting decimals at the time. I wrote a rap song about the decimal point called the itty bitty dot. And I thought, I am so going to be the man when I come in tomorrow and perform this. If you know anything about, if you know anything at all about middle school, let's just say I was not the man. You pretty much already know how this story turns out. But I got in there early. I got everything ready. I busted out the itty bitty dot. As you can imagine, it was a complete disaster. My students began laughing at me hysterically, and I'll never forget, I had one student, Josue. He was laughing so hard, he began clutching his stomach and shaking. He fell out of his chair, hit his head on the carpet. I had to send him to the nurse for an ice pack. And so I thought, okay, you know, I see exactly where my career is going. Yesterday, my students wouldn't pay attention to me. Tomorrow, I'll be, you know, looking for a new job. But I blew it off and went about my day. And then a really interesting thing happened later that day. I was walking to the lunch table, to the teacher's lounge for lunch, and I walked by the lunch tables, and they were all singing the itty bitty dot. In fact, even the ones who weren't in my class were singing along with the ones who were. And the next day, something which had never happened to me actually happened. The students came excited to be in my class. I think they actually ran into my class with the same amount of energy that they normally ran out of my class with. And they were saying things like, oh, Mr. Kajitani, are you going to rap again? Yesterday was the best day ever in math class. And my student, Josue, whose head was all healed now from his big fall, he actually asked me if I was going to quit teaching and be on MTV full time. So you're about to see why they haven't exactly called yet. But at the end of the week, my students' test scores shot through the roof on adding and subtracting decimals. And so I like to say I've been math rapping ever since. And so this is totally and completely embarrassing, but I'm just going to put myself out there, show you a video of the first song I ever attempted, the itty bitty dot. I promise you my dance moves have gotten much better since filming this video. Okay, I still can't dance, but hard to believe that I think over 250,000 views later on YouTube, and I think all of the Rap and Mathematician videos that my students and I have made have received, you know, well over 1 million views, and are being used in classrooms and homes all over the country to engage kids in math and make it cool. So here it is, my first ever attempt at making math cool, the itty bitty dot.
Now what in the world is that itty bitty dot? Yo, I just can't remember and it's making me distraught. I saw it in the price of the item I just bought. It's the decimal point. Yeah, now you get hot. When you add and subtract them, there must be a rule. Listen to my rhyme and use it as a tool. Just line up the pot and give it all you got. I said line up the pot and give it all you got. And when you take the difference, in other words, action, just use the same rules and bring on the action. Just line up the pot and give it all you got. Come on, line up the pot. Give it all you got. So turn off the TV, forget the radio station, because the itty bitty dot is a math sensation. To the right and the number greater, and the itty bitty dot needs no translator. Move to the left and the number gets smaller. The itty bitty dot is academic solid. So don't forget the rule. He's no efficient. The itty bitty dot is on a great big mission. Line up the top, give it all you got. Line up the top, give it all you got. And thus this concludes the decimal song with the rap and mathematician. Can't go wrong. Just line up the top, give it all you got. And line up the top, give it all you got. Just line up the top, give it all you got. Come on, line up the top, give it all you got. Just line up the top, give it all you got. And line up the top, give it all you got. Just line up the top, give it all you got. Come on, line up the top, give it all you got.
Here comes the big spin. There it was. All right. All right. So, oh, geez, how do I gotta move on here. Hang on a second. Oh, hopefully you're still with us after that. But that was it, right? That was my first real lesson on owning it as a teacher, which is that sometimes we've got to stop trying to take the curriculum and forcing it into the students' lives, and instead take the students' lives and see where it fits into the curriculum. And so I will tell you, I have 3 personal goals for our time together in this webinar. The first goal I have for you is that you get some inspiration out of our time together. Whether this is your first year or your 31st year as an educator, I believe that the work that we do teaching kids is the most important work that happens across the country every single day. And so I hope you'll get some inspiration out of our time together. The second goal I have, of course, is implementation, that you get some real, actual tools and strategies that you can use immediately tomorrow morning in the classroom, regardless of what level you teach, what subject you teach, or where you teach. And of course, the third goal I have for all of us is that you never sit there thinking, geez, I wish this guy would hurry up. I really have to pee. So not to worry, I got you covered. I'm going to keep things moving. I'm going to keep it grooving. We're going to end on time. Casey's got our back. And so along with inspiration and implementation, of course, we're going for no constipation this evening, all right? That is my firm commitment to you. And so that being said, you know, I want to share with you 4 lessons that I've really learned along the way as an educator. This is, I'm nearing my 20th year in education now, and these are all lessons that I've really learned about owning it that I share in the book. And the first lesson is that if you act like it's cool, then it will be, right? As educators, we have got to act like the jobs that we're doing, the stuff that we're teaching is actually pretty cool, because we all know there is no way that a kid is going to think that what we're covering is pretty cool if we ourselves don't actually at least act like it. I'm not saying there have to be fireworks going off in our classroom at all times, or, you know, every lesson plan is an Oscar-worthy performance, but basically, we've got to be the #1 believers in the work that we're doing. And so it's kind of fascinating. When I started to watch individual achievement rise in my own classroom, I started to research rap music and its role in society. And what I found is that rap music is now the most popular type of music in the world. And you know, contrary to popular belief, most rap music is not sold to minority kids in impoverished neighborhoods. No, it's sold to white kids in the suburbs. And so it is a tool that is being used, that should be used by educators everywhere in order to help students really connect with the academic content. And so I have to tell you also, it was my students, they came to me after school one day and they said, hey, Mr. Kajitani, can we talk to you? I said, yeah, what's going on? They said, you know, you're actually a really good rapper. I said, thanks. They said, your beats are good, your rhymes are good, but hey, your dance moves suck. I said, oh, okay, what do you want me to do about it? They said, we want to make the next video. They said, next time you write a song, give it to us. We'll get out the cameras. We'll do all the filming. We'll do we'll do everything. We'll put you in like a tiny bit at the very end. But for the most part, we're going to leave you completely out of it. And so I said, works for me. I wrote another song called Test Time, and the students made a video out of it. And we wanted to see if we could take the most uncool thing at our school, which was taking tests, and turn it into something that was really positive and celebrated. And so I want to see if I can show you this one here. No, you know, it's not going to work, but we'll put it in the in the link that we send out, but we ended up creating a really great test time video. And even our principal was caught break dancing in the hall one morning. So I don't know how your dance moves are, but I recently tried to show my nephew how to do a backspin. I threw my back out and I couldn't walk for like a day and a half. But if you ever want to make up your own rap songs, I wanted to share some amazing teaching resources with you. The first one is rhymezone.com. It's an online rhyming dictionary, and you can put in any word, select find rhymes, and click search, and it'll come back to you with every word that rhymes with it in the English language. And so it's one of the best vocabulary and literacy tools I've ever seen, because up come all these words that rhyme with the word that you're looking for. And the kids want to know, what does this word mean? What does this word mean? And you click on the word, there's the definition, the synonyms, the antonyms, everything. Of course, I have to warn you, I teach middle school, so what's the first thing they want to test out? Let's see if the cuss words work. Yes, they do. So just a heads up, you've been warned on that. And also, this is one of my new favorite party tricks. You've got to get this app. It's Auto Rap. There's a free version, or I think there's a $1.99 deluxe version, but you don't have to rap. You don't have to sing, nothing. You don't have to rhyme. All you do, you hit a button, you speak into the phone, you hit a button again, and it turns everything you say into a complete professional sounding rap song. And so you can literally have a kid read 4 paragraphs out of the world history textbook. It'll turn it into a great sounding rap song. But now, what do they want to do, right? They want to share it. They want to post it. And of course, now they're singing about the academic content that they need to learn. Again, owning it means embracing our students and what they're interested in, and stop trying to take the curriculum, forcing it into their lives, and instead take their lives and see what's important and to put into the curriculum. The next lesson that I've learned along the way as an educator that I talk about extensively in owning it is that as educators, visibility is everything, right? We have got to at least give the impression that we are everywhere all at once. Now, I have a confession to make, and that is that I once had a very, very tough year of teaching. And, it wasn't my first year of teaching. That was really tough, though. It wasn't my second. That was tough also. The truth is, every year is tough. But my toughest ever year of teaching was my 8th year of teaching. Because at the beginning of my 8th year of teaching, I got assigned that class. Now, I'll tell you what, if you're a new teacher and you have not yet been assigned that class, it's coming, right? Any veteran teacher will tell you. It is the class that made me drive home crying almost every night. It is the class that made me wonder why I ever started teaching in the first place. And what's worse, I had just been named California Teacher of the Year. And so everybody wanted to come into my class to see what I was doing. And they'd come in, they'd observe me for a while, and they'd walk out shaking their heads going, "What's up? That dude's not that good." And so you know what I did? I did what I thought any normal teacher might do. I totally blamed the students. I thought, what's the problem here? I've had 7 good years of teaching. Now in my 8th year, I get this, really tough class. I even found this classic quote by one of our most famous educators who once said that our youth now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority, they show disrespect for their elders, and love chatter in place of exercise. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up their food, and tyrannize their teachers. And I was like, yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. That famous educator, Socrates, 450 BC, right? It's not the students. This one was on me, and I had to own it, and I had to really start to turn things around in my classroom. And so I promised you some real ideas tonight. I wanted to share with you some ways to be highly visible as a teacher. Maybe you do some of these things, maybe you do them differently or even better. But the first way is I always make phone calls home before the first day of school. Now I realize we're well into the school year. It doesn't have to be the first day of school. It can be any Sunday or any day before break, or really any day. But I just go through my class list. I go down it. It takes about less than a minute per phone call. If I leave a message, that's fine. If no one's home, that's okay. I move on to the next one. I just say, hey, this is Mr. Kajitani. I'm going to be your math teacher this year. School starts Monday at 7:45. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be a great year. But what happens is I start to develop in their minds the thinking that I am visible to them, not just when I'm standing in front of them in the classroom, but when they're sitting at home watching, football on a Sunday afternoon. Visibility is everything. And I love, some of them, they show up that first day and they're like, hey, are you the guy who called my house? It's like, that's right, I am. Now get in here. Second great way to be highly visible, you got to do this. This is one of my favorite moves. It's called the honk and wave, right? It's happened to all of us. You're driving to school and it's 7:30 in the morning. You're almost to school. You're stopped at a red light and across the street, you see one of your students. Do not miss this opportunity, right? Turn off the radio, roll down the window, honk on the horn. Hey, okay, I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon. Or maybe it's just, I can't prove it, but I believe that nothing good has ever come from a student walking away from school at 7:30 in the morning. You get them to turn around and go back, you might just change the trajectory of their entire day. You might change the trajectory of their entire life, depending on what they were going to do. It's the honk and wave. You got to try it. Also, just walking onto campus, I just started saying hi to everybody. Doesn't mean that I have a full, long conversation with everyone, but, just acknowledging a kid, just saying hello to other teachers as well. What I later learned is that when we say hello to a kid, that's sometimes the first time that an adult has acknowledged that student since they left school the day before. We can never underestimate how critical it is to simply say hello to a kid. Also, greeting students at the door, right? I call this the #1 classroom management strategy of all time. We should all be greeting our students at the door. When we do, it basically says without saying it, hey, I'm ready for you and I'm glad you're here. This is one of my other favorite tricks. You've got to do this if you haven't done it. Utilize the eyes in the back of your head, right? It's happened to all of us. We're in the classroom or somewhere, we see, in the back of the classroom, let's call him Julio, right? Let's say we see Julio and his friends goofing off. You don't have to stop class, go yell at Julio, come back. Oh, where was I? Meanwhile, someone else has started talking. No, don't do any of that. Just make a mental note that he's goofing off with his friends, and then wait until your back is completely turned to the class. Let's say you're doing a math problem. 2 + 2 is 4. Wait till your back is completely turned toward the class. 2 + 2 is 4. And Julio, I need you to sit up and pay attention right now. Do it. Sit up. So we take the 4, move it down. Just keep going, right? And then the only question that you have to answer is, yo, how'd you know? Because I utilize the eyes in the back of my head. You got to try it. Also, being highly visible doesn't stop just because it's the end of class. Always have our students clean up the desk and the floor area, right? I just say, hey, this floor was spotless when you walked in. It needs to be spotless when you walk out, right? I'll tell you what, if you go to a restaurant tonight and you walk into the dining room and the dining room is filthy, get out. You don't even want to know what the kitchen looks like. So again, visibility is everything. Also, I always encourage teachers to dismiss the class with a hand signal, not the bell. That is not my hand signal. I just put that up there for effect. But, training the students from day one, the bell does not dismiss you. I dismiss you. We don't want our students running out just because the bell rings. As teachers, as educators, we say when class ends. And so here's my hand signal. I just hold my finger up like this. When everybody's quiet, when the floor is clean, I just go like that. And that's when they know that it's time to leave the class. Visibility is everything. You want to own it in the classroom. You've got to own your visibility and make sure that students think that we are everywhere at once. The third lesson that I want to share with you tonight that I've learned along the way is that as educators, the best thing that we can possibly do is surround ourselves with the best possible people, right? Let's be honest here, okay? It's May, it's the end of the school year, and some of us are getting tired. Some of us are starting to get really, really burned out. And that's okay. But it's important to make one clear distinction, which is that when you're tired, that's one thing. But when you're burned out, that's when you're tired and you no longer care, right? If you're tired, hey, get some rest, take a day off, do what you need to do, rejuvenate, get back in there, right? But it's when you start to no longer care, that's when you've got to be really, really careful. When we look at some of the top reasons why our teachers are leaving the profession, right? It's not just the pay, it's not just lack of administrative support, but it's just that feeling and that sense of burnout. And so, Adam Grant, in his absolutely wonderful book, Give and Take, writes that 3 decades of research show that receiving support from colleagues is a robust antidote to burnout. Having a support network of teachers is huge, right? You know who's going to get you through the hard times? You know who's going to really get you through the tough times, get you through anytime you're starting to feel burned out? It's your colleagues. It's your support network. It's the people around you, right? They may not necessarily be in your department or at your school. They may be people online. They may be people that that are part of your network on Twitter or Facebook. And I hope, of course, tonight you'll add me to all of those networks. But it's the people around you. It's almost, think of it as roots of a tree, right? What determines whether a tree weathers a storm? It's their root system. It's how deep their roots are. It's how strong their roots are. It's how intertwined with other trees' roots, right? It is your colleagues and your network that's going to really help you. And so this is kind of funny. I had to show you this. I was doing some internet searches for teacher burnout. I found this article right here. Teachers suffering from burnout. Check it out. Right above it, a Google ad. Become a teacher, 11 months. Ooh, I don't know if that's exactly the right formula there, Google. But again, it's a real thing. Being burned out is when you're tired and you no longer care. And so we've got to do everything that we can to take care of ourselves. Of course, staying healthy, things like that. We can talk about it more in depth later. But again, it is your network. It is the people that you surround yourself that make all the difference in the world when times get really, really tough. Finally, the last lesson I've learned along the way is that as educators, we just got to be real, right? Our students know when we're faking it, and our colleagues know when we're faking it. And I would be willing to bet that all of us have at some point worked with somebody who we knew was just totally faking it. And the only real way to do that is to be real. That's what we've got, and that's what we've got to do. And so, it's important to remember too, as long as we're being real and owning it, that, there's what you think teaching is, right? Usually we think it looks something like this. We're Yoda, right? We're going to take all of our Luke Skywalkers through this amazing year. Guide you, I will, right? But then, of course, there's what our students sometimes think teaching is. Sometimes they think it looks something like this. Same exact situation, same scenario, totally different perspectives. And so, all we can do as educators is just be real and own the struggles that we face, and always be looking for solutions and ways to find solutions and get past the challenges and hopefully solve them creatively as well. And, it's important to remember what Ralph Waldo Emerson said, which is that which we are all the while teaching. Yes, we teach our students math, and we teach them history, and we teach them music and art and science and PE and all of those things. But what our students are really and truly learning from us the most is simply who we are and how we go about seeing the world, being seen by the world, and really, operating in the world. And so just something that's really important to remember. It's also important to remember that you are, as an educator, somebody's role model. Hopefully, it's not something that looks like this. Here's a good one.
What is the most inspiring thing I ever said to you? I'm an idiot. Changing my life. Whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that? And if they would, I did not do that thing.
There it is, right? Simple as that sometimes. Simple as that sometimes. Let me see if I can get this thing going again. Not quite sure why it's not working. Oh, there we go. Okay. Finally, being real means teaching what is real and connecting the curriculum to the students' real lives. Again, I can't say it enough. Stop trying to take the curriculum, forcing it into the students' lives, and instead take the students' lives and see where it fits into the curriculum. Here's a wonderful game that I play with my students. I hope you'll play this game too. It's the same thing many teach. I should say it doesn't have to be math. It can really be, any. It can really be any topic at all, math, whatever you want. But it basically I don't have any fancy outfits or anything. I just say, hey, I'm the math professor. I believe that there is nothing that does not have something to do with math. And if they can think of something that has nothing to do with math, they can win a prize. And so middle school, we talk about they bring up the same stuff each year. They bring up ketchup, and we talk about calories and cost production and, why the 57 on the Heinz bottle. Or my students are really into soccer, so we talk about distance and angles and keeping score. I will admit once I was almost stumped. A student raised their hand and said, Mr. Kajitani, I know something that has nothing to do with math. I said, what? They said, love. I said, huh. And I thought about it. I couldn't think of anything. And just as I was about to admit defeat and start handing out prizes, another student raised their hand and said, oh, I know what love has to do with math. I said, what? They said, when you're in love, that can be very expensive. And another student raised their hand and said, oh, I know, in math, 1 + 1 = 2. But if you're in love and you're not careful, 1 + 1 could equal 3. That's when I had to use 2 words every teacher must at some point use, which is moving on. Finally, being real means to simply rely on who you are and to understand that, you really are enough, right? You don't have to have all of the answers. All you have to have is enough of the questions and a deep concern for helping our students, improve the outcomes of their lives. And, you can get whatever done you want. Just rely on who you are and know that you really are enough. A lot of people sometimes ask when I work with, especially with principals and other teachers, how do I build trust? How do I build trust with my students or my colleagues? And so, here are the 3, very complex yet very simple ways to build trust, which is say please, say thank you, and do what you say you're going to do. Again, it really is as simple and as complex as that. I mean, if you think about somebody that you don't trust, it's probably because, they don't appreciate you, right? They don't say please. They don't, or, they're me, or excuse me, I should say they're rude to you. They don't say please. They don't appreciate you. They don't say thank you. Or they say they're going to do something and they do something else. Or they say they're going to do something and, they don't do anything at all. Again, imagine if every one of our students, if our colleagues said please and thank you and did what they say they were going to do. It would absolutely transform the culture of any school or any community. Finally, here's a poster that I wanted to share with you to start to close things out before we go to questions and answers. But this is a poster that many math teachers have been doing for many years. I just, recently started taking all the credit. But it's just a poster that I hang up in my classroom. It's a way that the kids have to format their homework paper. They've got to write their name, date, and period on the top right, their assignment on the top left. They have to number each problem, keep their numbers straight, circle the final answer, skip lines between problems, things like that. The only difference is, I call this the Kajitani style. And so when I, and then what happens is, so when I'm walking around checking homework, I don't have to say, hey, Maricela, is that, how come you didn't circle your final answer? I can just say, hey, is that Kajitani style? And she says no, and she has to fix it. But what happens is, over the course of the school year, Kajitani style becomes something much more than just how you format your homework paper, right? It starts to become a part of the culture of the classroom. And so when I walk in with a new haircut, the kids go, hey, nice haircut. That's a Kajitani style cut right there. Or once I spilled mustard on my shirt at lunch and I tried to wipe it off, but there was still this big stain. So I just owned it. I walked in, I said, yeah, check it out. It's the mustard on the shirt look. That's the new Kajitani style, yeah? And they didn't really go for that one at all. But what happens is, over the course of the school year, the students start to develop their own style. And a loud and rambunctious student like Myra, well, we just get to celebrate that as Myra's style. Or a quiet and shy kid like Victor, we get to say, yeah, that's Victor's style. And all the weird and awkward things that our students walk in thinking about that themselves, instead, we get to celebrate that as their style. Let's be honest, all the weird and awkward things that we as adults sometimes bring into a room when we walk in, what if instead we could just celebrate that as our style? And that's what I learned being cool really is. It's just being comfortable with who you are and what you do. I mean, when I first started rapping, I thought I had to be like Snoop Dogg or Jay-Z. And, I'm still hopeful, but I just had to become confident and comfortable being that weird and wacky math teacher who was willing to get up and rap in front of their students. And, the truth is, it's not about rapping. It was never about rapping. It's just about taking the things that we love. It's about paying attention to the things that the students love and putting it into the work that we do every single day so that our style can shine through. And so I hope that when you have some time, you will put your own name at the top of the poster or whatever it is for you. And, start to take your last name and put the word style after it, because again, rely on who you are and your very style, right? Whether it's Kajitani style, whether it's any kind of style, again, take who you are, take what you love, take what your students love, and put it into the style and the person that you are. It has been so much fun sharing just parts of this. I could go on all night, and sometimes I go on for days with professional developments and things like that, but I know we'll get to some question and answers. But before, I just want to send out a huge thanks to the NEA for helping to sponsor this webinar. Hopefully you've gotten some inspiration, some implementation, and of course, no contemplation. And of course, a huge thanks to Solution Tree. I'm so happy and lucky and fortunate to be a part of their family. And if you're looking for a good read, of course, please feel free to check out Owning It, Proven Strategies to Ace and Embrace Teaching. It's available on Amazon and Solution Tree and, pretty much wherever you can find books. Also, please feel free to check out my website, alexkajitani.com. You can find all the information on multiplicationnation.com, and I try to post lots of inspiring things on there. And, I never want to be the speaker who shows up and you never hear from them again. So please, put me into your network, email me anytime. And of course, if you're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, I would love for us to be connected. I want this to be the beginning of a conversation, not the end of it. And so I thank you so much for your time. I am so truly grateful, and make sure to keep on owning it. With that in mind, I'll turn it back over to Casey, who I think has some questions for us, and happy to answer any and all questions that you have as well. Thank you so much.
Alex, that was awesome. Thank you for your energy and thank you for your inspiration. Now, how'd you get Harry Wong to write your foreword?
What's funny? Many years ago, he was keynoting at a conference. I was doing one of the breakout sessions, and so I went and listened to his keynote at the end of the conference, and I did it the old-fashioned way. I went up and introduced myself, and we chatted for a little bit, and we've been friends ever since for many, many years. He's given me a lot of great advice over the years, and I've been an admirer of his work as well, especially with the first days of school. And so have just been bouncing ideas off him for many years. And when it came time to, wrap up Owning It, I was so honored when he offered to write the foreword for this book. It's just really his practical, no-nonsense style that has always shines through, I think, in the foreword as well. And I'm so proud of it, along with every chapter in Owning It.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not know Harry Wong is, my gosh, how long has he been around, Alex? 50 years? I mean, he's been around probably for 50 years. He wrote a book called, I think, The First Days of School, yep. And a self-published book Solution Tree, self-published book that he crushed it with, and it actually has been a huge inspiration. And I'm pretty sure Harry, I don't know that he ever left teaching completely. I think he almost always continued to keep teaching. So, Alex, so if we read your book, and I take it and I'm inspired by it, am I going to be as enthusiastic as you?
I think you're going to really start to develop your own style. I think that one of the things that is really the strength of this book is how relatable it is, right? What it is it is jam-packed with real dilemmas, real challenges, real things that teachers face, every single day in our classrooms, working with our students, especially our most challenging students. It's it really, the challenges that we face, as adults on campus, working with each other, and then out in the community is what I call a public professional. And so what it does, every single chapter, they're very short, very simple to read. If you like the way I speak, you'll love the way I talk. Or if you like the way I speak, you'll love the way I write, I should say. But really, it's not a book that's necessarily meant to be read cover to cover, although I hope you will. But, you turn to a situation and you read and find solutions that really I've used, that some of the most enthusiastic, effective educators use. And there's some real implementable things that you can use immediately in your classroom to be highly effective and love what you do. A lot of teachers struggle to find real implementable solutions. And what I've done with Owning It is put them all in one place. I'll give you a couple of examples. One of the things, one of the chapters that we talk about, or I always hear teachers complaining about meetings, right? This is just kind of one of those ones about being an adult on campus. And so I always hear teachers complaining about meetings. Right now, there is somebody listening to us right now who's thinking, meetings, and they're groaning. And so, what if instead we could turn, not another meeting, into, really an hour to empower, which is like what I like to call it, or maybe it's less than an hour. So, what can we do? How can we liven up our meetings? What can we do? How can we, what are some things that we can say in order to get meetings back on track when maybe they start to go off the rails a little bit? Maybe sometimes simple ideas like, bringing some food to some ideas, or having, what I call a creative thinker of the month award, where we award the best or most creative thought that's come out as a result of one of our meetings. Lots of different ways to really make meetings something that teachers love. I personally love meetings. I think it's a great way to, get out from the in between the four walls of our classroom, interact, collaborate with our fellow teachers, and really share some ideas. What happens, and I travel around the country, speaking with teachers all the time. So many of them feel like meetings are just kind of a waste of time, or maybe we've seen the meme that's gone around social media that says, I survived another meeting that could have been an email. And how do we really bring meetings to life? How do we really make them, something that we can use to really, push the boundaries and innovate as teachers? There's tons of strategies in there. Like I said, you can just kind of even see the table of contents there, but tons of strategies in there on everything from, how do we deal with data? How do we make data come alive for our students? How do we talk about data? How do we deal with our most challenging students that, where 20% of our students seem to sometimes take up 80% of our energy? This book is, again, just really implementable strategies based on the real challenges that we face as educators, from teachers like me and many other teachers who have cracked the code on things we can do, again, to be highly effective and happy as educators.
Well, that joy is just so important, Alex, and finding that joy and unlocking it. And as I listen to you, I can certainly relate. When I was a teacher, I think there's a picture somewhere of me dressed as a pineapple. I did some John Travolta, some Vince McMahon, the wrestling guru, at playing a bad guy in front of the kids. And you have that playful style. But Alex, can you talk about, because there's an awful lot of folks that have lost that joy, and I'm so bullish on the future of education. I think this is the best time ever to be a teacher. I guess you sound like you're rather bullish as well on what a great gig it is to be a teacher today. Talk to me about that. Why should this be, if my sons, who aren't quite old enough to be teachers, but if they were in front of you and they were considering being a teacher, give me the bullish review for the next generation of teachers.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about two students really quickly. The first one is, I had a student named Luis, and a few years ago, it was the very last day of school, and the eighth graders get to graduate. They do their promotion ceremony, and then we let them leave early at I think like about noon. And so all the 8th graders had left off campus, and I'm thinking, okay, great, I can get a jump on cleaning out my room, right? And so I'm cleaning out my room. It's, just about lunchtime. Well, Luis comes into my room and he says to me, hey, Mr. Kajitani, is it okay if I sit here until lunchtime? And I said, yeah, sure. I said, are you waiting for your little brother or sister or something? Why, you get to go home right now. He said, yeah, it's fine. I'd just rather sit here. And so I said, okay, yeah, fine. So I'm cleaning my room. And then it occurs to me, wait a minute. Why would this kid sit here? He didn't especially love my class, all year long. Why would he be here when he could actually go home? And so I turned to him, I said, hey, Luis, what are you doing here? He said, I don't know. I just feel like sitting. I said, no, seriously, man, it's the last day of school. You get to go home early. Why are you sitting here? I'll never forget. He looked at me and he said, I just want to eat the free lunch one more time before I go home to nothing all summer. As teachers, we do so much more than teach the curriculum. We do so much more than deliver lesson plans or give assessments or, whatever work that we're doing, helping out in a classroom, whatever that may be. We are the ones who, feed students like Luis every single day. And so sometimes if you're feeling a little down, if you're feeling a little bit burned out, if you're not feeling good about the direction that our teaching profession seems sometimes like it's going in, think about students like Luis and how much they depend on coming to school every single day, not just to learn the quadratic equation, but sometimes to just eat that lunch one more time before they go home to nothing. We are truly, as educators, as people who work in schools, we are the ones who help students survive every single day. And the second story that I'll tell you is not really about a specific student, but it's kind of about so many of our students, which, they go and they leave our classroom and sometimes they come back in, years later, taller, more mature, and they walk in and they tell you how much they loved your class, or they want to see, do you still do this, or do you still do that joke, or things like that. And in all honesty, sometimes the students never come back, and we never get to know the influence that we've had on a specific student. But sometimes, and quite often, some of those students, they do come back. Maybe they were students that, we got close with. Maybe they weren't. But think about the students that come back or have come back over the years, right? Sometimes we, as educators, we don't get to see the immediate impact that we have on students' lives, right? We don't get to see, we're not a business where we get to judge things by the bottom line or the profit and loss column or how many things we've produced or how many markets we've pushed into, things like that. Sometimes we just learn much later on about the impact that we've had on the lives of so many people. And so, my advice really is to not necessarily judge things day to day, to not judge things, even week to week or month to month. But when we look back on those years, what is the feeling that we get as we look back on those years, on all of those lives that we've had an influence upon? Sometimes it's really big things like, higher education and certain jobs and, life moments and things like that, where we've helped students really thrive in this world. And sometimes it's just helping them eat that lunch one more time. So hang in there and just know that the work that you're doing, if you're starting to feel a little burned out, or if you have been for a while, the work that we're doing is so very important. We are the profession that creates all other professions. And that, to me, again, is the most important work that happens across the planet every single day.
Tell me about a teacher that you saw transformed by, maybe directly by what you recommended, but even just transformed, because again, so many of them I've worked with had so much joy at one point. In fact, I've actually, most of the most negative educators I've worked with along the way, sometimes have been the most compassionate, and they might have even been harmed along the way. And sometimes they wind up getting inspired and turn around, and it's a beautiful thing. So do you have any examples of maybe some interaction you've had where you've been able to see a teaching colleague, an educator colleague, turn things around in a way that you're really proud of?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I last year I was working with a teacher named Ken, and Ken told me later that I think he said it was his 25th year in teaching, and he was done. He said that he was finished, right? He had enough. It was, second half of the school year, he just really felt like he had absolutely had enough. And I met him when I came to speak at their district's professional development, mid-year professional development day. And, I gave my keynote speech and did some breakout sessions and things like that. And this teacher, Ken, he came up to me later and, he was asking me some questions. So I gave him a copy of Owning It, and he said, okay, I'm going to go home and read it. And he said that, he basically just every morning he just opened it up on his desk, and he read a chapter, and he would kind of try some things out. What he said was that at first he was just like really still kind of grumpy about it. But then each day, and he started emailing me, and we kind of started talking, and we emailed back and forth, and we talked on the phone a few times. And it took, I don't know, probably, I would say a good month and a half. But he later called and said, you know what? I'm going to hang in there for one more year. I was all set to quit, but I'm going to hang in there for one more year. And so what we see there is, again, it's that example of what I was talking about earlier. It is your network. It is the people that you surround yourself with. If you're having a hard time, if you're feeling a little bit burnt, the first question you should ask yourself is, who am I surrounding myself with? Maybe I need some new friends, right? Maybe I need to go seek some people out. And, as much as I want to say things like, you give this, as much as I want to say like, yeah, there's this incredible video that you need to watch, or there's this incredible, speaker that you need to hear, and things like that. There isn't this just one thing that gets people motivated, that keeps people motivated. Real motivation happens in little chunks every single day, consistently, right? As Zig Ziglar once said, people say motivation doesn't last, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. Motivation is something that happens in little parts every single day. And it's not necessarily from the amazing movie about the Hollywood teacher who does these incredible things, and we realize, oh, I'm never going to live up and be like that person. Real motivation comes with just having small conversations every single day, owning and embracing the challenges that we face. And you know what? Finding solutions, going out and finding solutions. Nothing is more fulfilling than being faced with a problem in education, collaborating together with your colleagues or with your students, coming up with a solution, implementing it, and seeing the influence that it has, and sharing it with other people. That's what we do as educators. We're problem solvers. And when we go out and solve problems, when we go out and find, a way to innovate the work that we're doing, I mean, that to me gets me very, very excited. You got me started, Casey. I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, you totally did. You totally did. And you gave me that example of that teacher, and I really appreciate it. And, guys, anyone that's listening, the research is really clear. A kid needs, in some cases, no more than one role model in their life, or one person that they can attach to in their life, and it will dramatically reduce the possibility they drop out. I've shared about over 70 dissertations in my life, and people oftentimes want to write about, if parental involvement, if we can just improve parental involvement, schools would be better. Well, that's certainly a great aspiration, but the research is really clear that above and beyond that, there's many things above and beyond parental involvement, including the connections that we make with kids. And if they have one solid connection in their life, if it's at home, great. If it's at home and school, or at school and maybe not even at home, that one student who's there to eat lunch with you, that literally, but there are either research, if you're not even taking the heart out of it, just looking at the research, you really need one person. Tell me more about that that being real. I really like that. I think so many educators are a little afraid to be real. We're afraid that we'll say the wrong thing. We'll do the wrong thing. My gosh, if I get up there and rap, I'll do something. I'll get embarrassed. I'll lose my job. I mean, there's such a tendency to play it so safe today. How do you get real and I don't know, overcome that fear?
Yeah, I often draw on the work of Brene Brown. I know that she's very popular right now, but one of the things that she says, or that I read in her book, that has always stood out to me so tremendously is, she says that in her book, Daring Greatly, that we've got to stop asking this age-old question of, what would you do if you knew you could not fail, right? She says, let's stop asking that question of, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? And instead, let's start asking a new question, which is, what is worth doing even if I fail? What is worth doing even if I fail? I know that everybody watching today or listening, has that thing that they've been wanting to do. Maybe it has to do with work. Maybe it doesn't have to do with work. Maybe it's something small. Maybe it's just a conversation, right? But is it worth doing even if you fail? If it is, you got to go for it, right? We've got to get past this sort of wall of invincibility of not being being afraid to fail, so not trying things and stuff like that. And we can't expect our students to take chances. We can't expect our students to take risks if we ourselves aren't willing to take risks. Sometimes for our student, that risk is just showing up at school. Sometimes that risk is, reading a few sentences out loud in front of the class. Sometimes for that student, the risk is, putting themselves out there to try, a new elective, or to just raise their hand and answer a question. Can we really expect our students, can we really expect of our students that which we don't expect of ourselves? And so what I do is I encourage everybody listening today to just think, what is that one thing? What is that one risk that you've been thinking about for a while, that you've been wanting to take? Is it worth doing even if you fail? If it is, you got to go for it. You got to go for it. It's worth it even if you fail. And you know what? Our students are going to follow suit. We want our students to take risks. We've got to do it ourselves. And you know what? Let's just get past looking silly. Let's get past feeling like we're going to fail. The most innovative companies, the most innovative products, the most innovative people are that way because they are willing to fail over and over again. And as teachers, that's something we've got to be real about. We've got to own and embrace, and we've got to live it ourselves. Again, that which we are, we're all the while teaching, as Emerson said. So let's show our students that, we're okay with taking some risks ourselves.
That's exciting, and as we're kind of wrapping up here, I've posted a few times. Anybody, if you have any questions, to go ahead and post them, and we'll be delighted to entertain those questions. So if you see the chat box there at the bottom, that would be great. Alex, tell me, you've been in it 20 years. What's it going to be like in teaching 20 years from now?
Oh man, that's a great question. I mean, obviously, with the rise of technology and things like that, I think, I think we're going to start to see more, sort of tech everything. But and there are a lot of, it's funny because, you see, you hear people talk about, and rightfully so, about how, how education, the education model hasn't changed much since the Industrial Revolution and things like that. And so, I do think we're going to start to, I do think that, 20 years from now, we're going to see, sort of things like, new design in buildings and design thinking and how we create our schools, how we format our schools. I also think, I think schools are going to really start to get a lot more flexible, where they're not necessarily places that students go to, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon every single day. I think that schools are going to start to become much more integrated into the community, almost like coffee shops, if you will, where, you're going to a school to not necessarily see the same people every single day, but students are, out in the community working on issues, maybe working in companies. And I think, I think this is possible, starting at a pretty young age, where schools are no longer just this place that you go to, all day long to sort of, follow a bell schedule. What I do not think will ever change or should ever change is just the depth of caring, the depth of inspiration, and the depth of knowledge that teachers will bring to the classroom, to their students every single day. Like you said, it only takes one, right? And what will never, ever, ever be replaced is the need for highly effective teachers who love their students, who love what they do. There is no app, there is no computer, there is no robot, there is no online program that is coming to replace teachers. There will always be a human need for, true teachers who care about their students, who change outcomes for their students, and who are invested in the future of our country, every single day. I know sometimes it may seem like, we've got a teacher shortage and things like that. But the need for, teachers who are real, who are passionate, and who get the job, who do the work every single day and wake up to do the work every day, that need will never change.
Alex, you couldn't have ended this on a better note. That's absolutely perfect. As we wrap up here tonight, folks, thanks for joining. Alex, remind us again how we can stay connected to you. Remind us again how we can still be your friend and keep the conversation going.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll go back just one question there, but alexkajitani.com. I know it's a crazy name, but you can always Google the Rappin' Mathematician if you need to. If you're on Facebook, please send me a friend request. Let's follow each other on Twitter or Instagram. And again, if you're looking for something great to read, Owning It, so lucky to be with Solution Tree, has a great read, as well as, so many other books. But you can get a hold of me through my website. You can contact me. Again, I answer every email that's intentionally sent me. And again, let's make tonight the beginning of the conversation, not the end of it. And until next time, own it.
What a great conclusion, Alex. Thank you so much. Thanks again to the NEA. This is part of, again, our ongoing learning community of practice. 3.7 million teachers in the NEA. We've got a community of practice here that stays connected. A Solution Tree, Alex, you probably know this, but they've just purchased a couple of companies in Australia, and hopefully they'll be selling our books over there, my friend. And that community keeps getting bigger as well. But we really are a global community, and thanks to everybody who joined us tonight. And if you're clicking through later, stay tuned, because we have these just about once a month, and we'd love to have you join us. Alex, I'll be following you. Thanks for joining us. I really enjoyed our time tonight. Okay.
It's a pleasure, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks for your contribution, my friend. Have a great night.